What is up? What's going on, guys? Trizzle here, tuning in, bringing you guys another great 3-star tutorial. Today, we are going to be going over Town Hall 12 GiWiBo. That's right, guys. This is actually one of the strongest ground attacks at Town Hall 12 with the current meta. You may have actually seen the other tutorial I made for this for Town Hall 11, but there were two things that I do want to mention on that particular tutorial. It used earthquake spells, which I've actually since switched to using 2 jump spells, and also it was for Town Hall 11. So this is actually the big boy version, the Town Hall 12. And we're going to get right into it because, again, guys, this is one of the strongest raids at Town Hall 12. And if you're not using it, you're going to have a huge gap in your arsenal. So starting, of course, with the army, you're going to be bringing 10 giants, 10 witches, 18 bowlers, and for your siege machine, you're going to bring a WallWrecker. For the clan castle troops, you're going to be bringing a CC Pekka and 3 giants, and in some cases you can also bring 5 Valkyries. Now I do want to note that due to the different base layouts for your cleanup, you're going to bring either 1 minion or 2 archers. You can kind of go back and forth on that, just depending on the base. Now that's going to bring us to the spells for the army. Now with this army, you're going to be using 2 jump spells, 2 rage spells, 2 freeze spells, 1 poison spell, and then you're going to bring a heal spell in your clan castle. Now, as far as the tips for success, you're actually going to want to use this is best used on bases with an open layout. The less compartments that you will find, the better your chance of 3-starring. Now, as always, you want to make sure you're using max troops for your current town hall. So with this, you'll want to use max town hall troops only. Now, you always want to get the maximum value for your WallWrecker, so keep a close watch to make sure that you can freeze or use the Grand Warden's Eternal Tome ability to protect it from going down to single target infernos and large clusters of defenses, putting out a large amount of DPS. This will help ensure that it doesn't go down too quickly before reaching the town hall. Now, to 3-star max bases and war consistently, your king and queen need to be at least level 56 or higher, and your Grand Warden, he needs to be at least level 26 or higher as well. Now, of course, with any raid, any 3-star army, you want to practice, memorize those raid objectives, and then practice some more. Now that's going to bring us into the raid objectives for the army. Of course, starting with number 1. Now your goal is to take out as many high value defenses as soon as possible, as you want to prioritize taking down the following defenses listed in the order of importance. Starting with number 1 is the Eagle Artillery. Number 2, the Clan Castle, defensive Clan Castle. Number 3, any single target infernos that can target the WallWrecker before it breaks far into the base. And number 4, Giga Tesla / Town Hall. Now number 2 for your raid objectives, you have to identify the best side of the base to attack. In order to do that, you're going to want to use the following guidelines. You're always going to want to, starting with number 1, always approach the strongest side of the base, except on anti-3-star bases where the town hall is placed outside the base. Number 2, attack the side of the base that allows you to take out the higher priority defenses as soon as possible. Number 3, attack the base in a way that allows the WallWrecker to open up as many walls as possible before reaching the town hall. Number 4, avoid letting the defensive CC flank your army at the very start of the raid. Number 5, try to engage the base so that you'll deal with the infernos one at a time if possible. That's going to bring us to the 3rd raid objective, which is going to be to start by deploying 1 giant, followed by 1 witch, followed by 1 bowler on one corner, and then you'll repeat the same steps on the other corner. Giant Witch Bowler. Number 4, deploy a line of giants, then drop the WallWrecker as close to the middle as possible to get the maximum value. Number 5, right after dropping your WallWrecker, deploy a line of witches, immediately followed by a line of bowlers. Number 6, deploy your heroes, starting with the Grand Warden, then the Archer Queen, then the Barbarian King. Number 7, you're going to want to deploy your first rage as the troops break into the first layer of the base. Deploy your heal spell on your, that brings us to number 8, which is going to be to deploy your heal spell on your kill squad and the poison spell on defensive CC troops as you engage the CC, and when the first or second Eagle Artillery hits drop down on your army. Now number 9, keep an eye on your WallWrecker and be ready to freeze any single target infernos that lock onto it or the Barbarian King so they don't go down prematurely. Number 10, as the army moves towards the core and engages the town hall, this is typically where you'll get the most out of the Grand Warden's Eternal Tome. And number 11, you want to use that second rage spell to clear out everything in the core and to help take down the town hall and the Giga Tesla. Number 12, use a freeze spell on the Giga Tesla if needed. Due to the high DPS output, you want to make sure you have at least one freeze spell and or the Grand Warden ability to help protect your army from the Giga Tesla. Number 13, use your King and your Queen's ability as needed to keep them alive as long as possible. And number 14, use your jump spells to allow your army to move out of the core and to continue moving through the base. Now you always want to account for making sure that your army can access single target infernos on the far side of the base. And that's it, guys. The last one is just to sit back and collect your 3-star. Now there are a couple things that I do have to note, very important things that you don't want to forget. Number 1, don't be hesitant to use your King ability to power through the core. Make sure you use the ability to help prevent the single target infernos to lock on, and don't hold back from activating it too long. Number 2, use the AQ ability to keep her alive until the end. I know that goes without saying, but it's very important that your queens stay alive as much as possible, because typically if you can get through the core with the queen alive, and you've taken out all those key defenses, usually it's one of the indicators that you're going to 3-star. Number 3, be flexible if necessary. There are some bases where you're going to need to drop a giant or a bowler in your army and bring some additional utility troops that can exploit a weakness in the base. And one of the replays that I'm going to show you will actually be a perfect example of that, which is why you always want to have that flexibility. Now, being that it is a Town Hall 12 army, I know there was a lot of steps. Obviously, it's a bigger troop count, and you can bring more spells. So I know there was a lot of stuff that we just went over, but now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes, guys. We're going to get into the actual replays. That way you can see this in action, and those of you that do better by watching the attack, you'll be able to get more out of it. So starting with the first replay, again, guys, you want to attack an open base. You want to make sure that you're attacking into the Eagle Artillery. So on this base, I start with my corners, Giant Witch Bowler, Giant Witch Bowler on the other side, line of giants, WallWrecker, the line of witches come down, followed by the line of bowlers, and then after that, the royals, the Warden, Queen, and then the King in that order. Now, as the troops move into the first layer of the base, this is where you're going to drop your first raid spell. You always want to, again, account for those single target infernos, so I dropped the freeze to make sure my WallWrecker would make it into the core. I dropped the heal spell as the troops engage those other infernos and the Giga Tesla, and I popped the Eternal Tome to hold off to allow the troops to power through the core. I dropped the rage spell as the troops approach the town hall. That way it could muscle through the core, take out the Giga Tesla, and work its way through the base. With that being said, the last 2 spells that you have, those 2 jump spells, this is where you're going to use them as needed and allow the rest of your army to continue flowing through the base, and to access any potential single target infernos that might still be left out. So there you have it, guys. This was a max base, of course, so as you kind of go through everything. Well, I take that back. There are a couple defenses that weren't quite max, but you will actually be able to see a couple max base replays that I'm going to show you. So there you have it. That was the first attack, and let's go ahead and hop into the second attack, which I believe this was a fully max base. Let's see. Okay, so again, giant, witch, bowler, and repeat that step on the other side, followed by the line of giants. Then you get your WallWrecker down, then your line of witches, and then your line of bowlers, and again, then you're going to drop the heroes, starting with the warden, followed by the queen, followed by the king. And it's very easy, guys. It's not a difficult raid to execute. You just have to make sure that you're following the steps, managing your spells accordingly, and following the tips for success, so that way you can do things that will give you the best possible chance, increase the likelihood that you're going to 3-star. So again, you'll notice that the majority of your spells are used in the first half of the raid, allowing your army to get past those high priority defenses, take out the CC, the defensive clan castle, the eagle artillery, as well as making sure that you can muscle through that Giga Tesla, because it is extremely powerful, guys. I'm sure you guys have probably seen this in your raids where you don't quite have enough firepower as you approach the core, and that Giga Tesla makes you pay for it, and before you know it, you end up with a 1-star, which is extremely frustrating. But that brings us to the next replay, and on this one, pretty strong base going in from the bottom left hand side, and it's rinse, wash, repeat, guys. Giant, witch, bowler, giant, witch, bowler on the other side. Then you do your line of giants, followed by the WallWrecker, followed by the line of witches, and then your line of bowlers. The heroes come down behind it, and then first rage spell as you access the first layer of the base, followed by the heal spell, freeze any appropriate defenses, make sure that you save the Eternal Tome and or a freeze spell to take care of the Giga Tesla, and then use those jump spells to allow your army to continue to flow through the base and to make sure that you can access any single target infernos that weren't taken down earlier on. So very, very easy, guys. This is one of those attacks that if you find an open base, you can almost guarantee that you're going to 3-star. You just have to make sure that you, of course, practice and get those fundamentals down. So that's going to bring us to the next attack, and this one was another fairly strong base. We're going to be going in on the top left hand side, and you'll actually notice that when you release the WallWrecker, you want to be mindful of the angle that you're dropping it. Obviously, it typically makes a beeline for the town hall, so if you're not careful when you deploy it, you can end up not getting the maximum value out of it. So just be careful, guys, and make sure that you account for that in your raid planning and when you're doing your scouting, because it does make a difference. I've actually made a mistake myself where you're attacking an anti-3-star base, and then of course the town hall is off to the corner, and then not really even thinking about it. You release your WallWrecker, and before you know it, the WallWrecker doesn't even break any walls, because it's just making a don't pass go, do not collect $200, go directly to the town hall. So there you have that. That's going to bring us to one of the second to last replays, and on this one, again, extremely open layout, and we're going to always try to approach the base so that we can get those higher priority defenses, and this one is no different. We were able to move as an entire wave across the base, taking everything out, and by the time it was all over, we had a pretty good portion of our army still left alive. Mind you, it wasn't a perfectly maxed base, but in me putting together the videos and the replays for the tutorial, it's so important that I show you guys the execution more than anything else. Alright, so bringing you to the second to last replay I want to bring to you guys. With this one, I ended up dropping the 1 minion for 2 archers, and when you look at a base like this that's kind of offset, you typically want to start your raid when you drop your giant witch bowler on the side that is more indented on the base, so that way when you take out those structures, your army isn't as likely to start circling and leaning in that direction. So with this one, of course, take out the first layer of the base, raid spell as the army moves into that second layer, heal spell to protect from the CC and high DPS, freeze spell to address the Giga Tesla, as well as any single target infernos, and then from there the troops actually move through as a wave, and then I use those jump spells to allow the rest of the army to continue their progress and make sure that we can access any infernos or any expos that are still left lurking. Alright, so definitely clutch raid. And speaking of clutch, I'm gonna have to show you guys this one particular replay from our war last night, and it just so happened, of course, that I was using GiWiBo, so it was quite an end to the war, to be quite honest. Extremely exciting end, because I think there was probably like a 1/10 of a second left on the clock. This was so close as far as getting the triple. I had no idea how it wasn't a 3-minute raid. Alright, so let me go ahead and show you guys this. On this particular army, I did end up tweaking my particular troop composition, and like I mentioned to you guys, you've got to be flexible. Because of this base being set up the way that it was, you want to try and give yourself a little bit of an exaggerated funnel. That way your troops can actually go into the core without potentially going around the core, which obviously isn't good. So my plan was actually to WallWrecker in on the 12 o'clock corner at the very top of the base, and then WallWrecker in on the 9 o'clock corner on the far left side of the base, and I figured that would have helped with the funnel, but apparently Destiny had a different plan in mind, because I ended up having like a quadruple WallWrecker fail, but we were still able to get the triple. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. So starting with the giant witch bowler, I'm going to start on the bottom left-hand side, left corner, I should say, the 9 o'clock corner. Then I'm going to do the same process on the very top corner as well. This is where I tried to bring in the WallWreckers, but unfortunately, again, Faith had another plan in mind. So as the troops get deployed, they end up moving as a wave. The WallWrecker accesses the core of the base, and then from there we get a late CC pull using the heal spell and raid spell, free spells to manage everything to be able to work through the core of the base. And then after that, once the Electro Dragon on defense went down, we were actually pretty much all done with the core. There was only one thing that ended up making this a really exciting raid, because again, it actually came down to the end, and you'll notice that that one expo is still up, and it's been going strong since I moved into the core. I don't think it stopped shooting the entire time, but you'll notice that the troops that I have are slowly winding down. By the time everything gets killed on the exterior of the base, any additional troops, support troops that I had died. The Grand Warden died. Everything went down, and all that was left was a lone witch and about maybe 10 to 12 skellies from some of the other witches that produced them before they actually died. So as the skellies move towards the expo, you'll notice that it ends up taking them basically all out. So the witch, by the time it gets there, it's using its power, and if you look at that, guys, there was probably 1 hit point left on that witch's health. If there was even a millisecond difference, there would not have been a triple. And that right there just goes to show you that this is an extremely strong raid, guys. So I don't know if you're currently a town hall, but if you are, guys, please take the time to practice this raid. I promise you it will give you some easy 3 stars on bases that have the right layout for it. So make sure that you're doing your homework, and as always, make sure you're trying to be the best clasher and the best 3-star attacker possible. Your boy Trizzle always appreciates you watching the video all the way to the end. I'm going to continue on my grind, guys, trying to put out as much high-level content for you guys. I've noticed that a lot of people like the Town Hall 12 content, but I'm not going to neglect those other town halls, so stay tuned. Of course, make sure you're commenting on those videos to participate in the Subscriber of the Month gift card giveaway, and join us every Sunday night for the weekend live stream where we do weekly raffles and different things like that. So again, really appreciate you guys watching the video all the way to the end. Trizzle tuning out.